may have the same issue for which their own operativity can be hampered. So I'm going to say something that is anti tendency. For me, the problem of education, the role of multinational is what are the baseline over which we produce a resilient society, taking back or evolving the learnings of our grandfather, the cultural learning, how to do things with less touch intensity, or using the new technologies that you all are providing for us. So I think there is a lot to do. Not always the most smart tool is the best one. People need to train. A question then, and we will have to sum up the panel.
One comment, and it kind of goes back to the whole policy thing and being smart about the way that we do things. Talk about people not having a radio. A lot of people don't. Truth is, you actually have a radio right in your hand. Most of you are carrying a radio around. The chipsets that receive the radio frequencies from the cell tower can also receive the radio frequency from the radio stations. We've just never codified that to actually leverage technology we already walk around within our hands in emergency services to have the companies turn on those frequencies in these chipsets so that now I can turn this into the radio that you can get. The next step.
Last comment, then
A little comment to follow up on what Trent said. In California, the government has been moving hard to push the grid to renewables, and it's become less and less reliable for the consumer. So a lot of my friends have purchased natural gas generators at their houses to deal with outages. They purchase natural gas generators to deal with outages that moving to renewables has caused, along with the lack of investment in our grid. Governor could, and I'm not going to be nice, Trent, sorry, our governor could have been building reservoirs and hydropower instead he's building a train to nowhere because it's politically correct. But the point being, they then moved to try to ban natural gas connections into new homes because they don't want you using natural gas because nominally the particulate matter and your home's unhealthy for you and you don't have the right to make that decision as a consumer. Luckily, the Ninth Circuit Court just threw that out today, but we live in a place where in some cases the consumer is continually running away from the government's series of decisions that they're making with high-minded ideals that are not delivering what it is the consumers actually need to have, which is reliable energy in their homes.
So we'll collect also the last one and then making the final remarks based on Tom.
Okay, so I just wanted to. Yeah, well, I stole it. So I just, for the sake of discussion, I still can write and even in both directions, left to right and right to left, because this is what we are using. So I wanted to actually take the subject here and your question actually in a different angle. And I call it the responsibility, and it's the responsibility of actually governments and global organizations to push towards involvement and active involvement of the organization. And the reason I think is why, because going to your first question, actually, what changed in the electric? So I don't want to contradict my previous panel saying that there is a paradigm change in electricity, but the paradigm change is not in the electricity. They are still streaming at the end of the day electrons, using different technologies, but still streaming. But what changed is actually the application. We actually pushed more and more application using electric energy to operate them. This is actually the main change. And the point that I want to talk about in one sentence or two sentences is actually we don't see in years that we usually even talking about long-term planning, something that is going to replace the electric energy. Because if I'm talking about the industrial age revolution and everything, we changed many times, starting from what I call any power, not any power, but any from animal power, starting from power, horses and cows and so, going to steam power and then to electric power. Now we don't see any alternative to the electric power. We only see more and more applications that are based on electric power. And because of this, I think that it should be a global interest and global, I would say, accountability of government, regulator, and group to actually gain those companies to join forces and to actually operate to better and a more resilient electricity program.
I agree. We should organize a conference specifically on that. But I will let the panel. So time is running over. Based also on the last questions, what is your call for action?
Going down the line. All right. So the call to action, from my perspective, would be, I don't think we necessarily have to draw, we don't necessarily have to put on opposite ends of the spectrum, resiliency and sustainability. I think many of the technologies that can assist us in the sustainability arena also assist us on the resiliency. We've seen that with some very specific examples. But in order to get that, and again, coming back to the theme of this panel, you really have to take an international perspective in order to find those tools, technologies to leverage one for the other. It is as I opened up my remarks, 3 uses of energy, throughout human history: heat, light, and motion. They're all, relatively speaking, descending, whereas there is an ascendancy in that budget of energy we're now using for our collective brain, the cloud. So I do wonder when there will be some, and I think Andy started pulling at this thread a little bit in some of his comments, but I do wonder when will there be a merging of energy and the cloud, and what will that combination look like? And how will that combination help us both on the resiliency and the sustainability missions?